James is having some tacos, and I don't know if you could see that, but there's some cauliflower there. Because the only greenery I had for the tacos was a free creamy dill salad mix that was given to us from the Salvation Army, so that went in there without the dressing or whatever. And I just fried up some navy beans with some bell peppers and such, and some sort of taco spices, and then the feta from the creamy dill salad. James can put those on his tacos.
Crumbled feta.
Yeah, so his won't be vegan, but mine are vegan because I won't have the feta. And The Nightmare Returns, Alice Cooper, that got top of the stack rating. Who would have thought?
That's
Marvel's
Pauline's
Civil War.
rating. She was just listening to it.
What
I
is
don't think
classic
she
rock?
saw more than a few instances.
I didn't see that much. I was just listening to it and thinking, wow, you know, I saw the beginning, so I knew that he was doing a concert, and that's what it was. It was a concert.
So the film came out originally. This is a reissue, I suspect. Well, DVD didn't exist back then. So the tape would have come out in 87, and the concert was in 86. So when the concert came out, Pauline was 11 years old. And this wasn't Alice Cooper's heyday. Alice Cooper's heyday was 71, 72, 73, maybe 74 at the latest. So Pauline wasn't even born when it was Alice Cooper's heyday. So it's not as though it was something that was reminding her of when she was 10 years to 20 years old. That's usually when people form their musical habits, if they've got musical habits. And she was impressed. I she wasn't even seeing the stage show. I was reasonably impressed. I was going to go out and do some shopping just while I was getting ready, kind of listen to what was happening in the background as I was getting ready, and I went and laid down in front of the little TV that we've got, and next thing you know, it was wrapping up. I didn't watch the trailers, or not trailers, highlights or the extra material and stuff like that, but the concert, there were a couple of times at the end where it got a little samey for me. He doesn't have the greatest voice. Pauline knows all about that. She sang in the choir. She's got a wonderful voice. And he was, as a writer, I think he wrote pretty well all the material that's featured in this concert. When you don't have a great voice, like Leonard Cohen, is another example. We'll use him. You can't really write you can't write memorable melodies. You need something like range, a la Paul McCartney or Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys, formerly the Beach Boys, to write decent melodies. It's not a guarantee. There are people who've got pretty good range. Say, Joni Mitchell, who at one time had something like a sense of melody, but she just seemed to give it all up pretty well. Some of her later stuff sounds almost like hip hop in terms of his lack of melody. So the one thing that Alice Cooper had was he knew how to put together a reasonably effective lyric. I wouldn't call it highly poetic or anything like that. He's singing the lyrics so you can make most of the stuff out, even though he's got a fairly heavy rock band behind him. And he knows how to put together little pieces of music, like the stuff will have a chorus that's somewhat catchy. Sometimes he'll have a verse with a build in between the chorus, and the stuff is, you can kind of distinguish the structure as it goes by. It isn't like Joni Mitchell, Joni Mitchell's, so much of her latter-day stuff. I'm not talking about latter-day, it's the stuff that came after the first, not half of her career, first 10 years of her career. Sometimes early Leonard Cohen, he had trouble with coming up with stuff that was varied, structure but varied within a song. Suzanne takes you down. You know, it's basically the same structure. Every line varies the melody ever so slightly. I believe that was on his first album, 1968, but he eventually learned to get around his vocal limitations, and Hallelujah kind of like has an emotional kind of structure to it. So even when he's singing it, it can be a moving experience, especially if you're following the lyrics. Tim Buckley, you probably prefer his version. I think, even preferred the U2 version of Hallelujah. I don't, but I don't know why they did it the way they did it. I think you kind of appreciated the electronic.
I don't like U2.
Well, yeah, but the U2 version.
I don't even remember it.
There we go. So it's not, you weren't that impressed, obviously. But I can remember when one time you heard it, might have been the only time you were saying you kind of liked it. So. That's all. Don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, you're the one who likes U2. I really
didn't.
don't. I like Joshua Tree.
Well, I like Joshua Tree, but my overall view of U2 is not that favorable. So what happened is, after Joshua Tree and its follow-up, which had a lot of live stuff, so on and so forth, Rattle and Hum, they received a lot of criticism, and some of it was merited. I can remember Randy Newman, who wrote Short People and a variety of kind of surly takes on a variety of different things, saying somewhat surlily about Rattle and Hum, the movie. Goody goody, something like this. Goody goody. U2 discovers America. You know, it's got them visiting U2, visiting the Joshua Tree National Monument, I think it's called, or something like that, in southern, I think it's in Southern California. Is it maybe in the Mojave Desert, maybe a little bit away from Southern California. And it is kind of funny, Randy Newman doing that. I don't think Newman appreciated their religiosity, a variety of other things. It is maybe a bit pretentious. You get folks from Ireland, I was going to say, British Isles. Ireland's not Southern Ireland, Ayr, or however they call it, is not part of Great Britain, United Kingdom. It's important to keep those two distinct. But anyway, they're coming from the old world and they're discovering America. And I guess it's kind of offensive when, well, it's considered really offensive when people say nowadays that Christopher Columbus, discovered the Americas.
Well, that's not incorrect. He discovered them, just not first.
Yeah. I mean, you can discover and rediscover. There are different types of discovery. You know, like when you discover when Pasteur discovers, or Leeuwenhoek, using a microscope discovers some sort of bug or something like that. I'm mispronouncing his name. He's a Dutch biologist, quite a while back. When he discovers, I think his name means lion claw in Dutch. Anyway, when he discovers some sort of a bug in his microscope, that bug's been around forever and ever and ever and ever. Not a particular one, but its ancestor. So, you know, like a better term to use for someone like Christopher Columbus and Americo Vespucci and John Cabot or Giovanni Cabato, whatever
Explorers?
his name is. It's Explorers.
Yeah.
And but I can remember there was a guy called Lance Tailfeathers. He used to have a radio program on a local station. They used to kind of hide indigenous stuff away. It was like Sunday morning, I think. I like listening to this show. I like Lance Tailfeathers. I hope he's still around. But he played one song, I won't say religiously, but fairly regularly, and it went something like Christopher Columbus. How does it go? Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus. You make me furious. Okay, yeah, maybe. Yes, Christopher Columbus wasn't a very nice guy. But I think we discovered you. Nuh-uh. Okay, no, the indigenous people didn't discover Christopher Columbus. He went somewhere. And what he did was stunning. Coming across the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Just absolutely stunning. You can't take that away from him, however bad he was. It's like a ad hominem argument used against someone. Oh, I don't like that person. Therefore, whatever they say is untrue. And one of the things to point out about the explorers is, like Mississippi means something like great waters in an Algonquin type of language. I don't know which one it is. So, Miss just kind of means big, and in the Algonquin language, stretch all the way from the Atlantic and as far south as North Carolina, all the way here to Alberta, the Rocky Mountains. And Sippy means, it's even found in Grand Prairie, where Pauline comes from. It's considered northern Alberta. It's kind of halfway up Alberta. So what's the name of Bear River Creek Park?
Well, I don't know if they turned it back to Muskosipi, but it should be Muskosipi again. They had renamed it Centennial Park or something silly. Why? Stupid.
So they call it Bear. Is it Bear Creek?
Yeah,
Bear Creek, and they should call it Muskosipi. That means Bear Creek. Muskwa and Creek in Cree. Creeks down in the southern United States, but it means Muskwa means bear, and then it'd be combinatory form. It turns into Musco instead of Muskwa, and then Sipi means something like river. See how that is? Mississippi, Muskosipi. And Mississippi's a long way from Bear Creek. Check it up in your atlas. Hopefully you don't have to check up where the Mississippi is. The Mississippi, I believe, starts somewhere in Minnesota. Minnesota's it's considered middle America, but it's more on the eastern side of the United States. And I think the middle part of America, it's not that far east, the middle part of America is in one of the, is it North America? Is in one of the Dakotas, North or South Dakota. And we'll say it's North Dakota, but I'm not sure which one it is. And like I say, Grand Prairie in Alberta is considered northern Alberta. I don't think it's in the northern half of Alberta. It's way up there. The Algonquin languages are spread quite far. So they would have known about the Mississippi. Mississippi probably got its, I think the translation was the Great Waters or something like that. I don't know. It would have had its. They would have been. The indigenous people would have been telling explorers, not discoverers, what it was and where it was. And but what the discoverers did is they mapped stuff. You should see some of them. I don't know how they did the mapping.
Yeah, I don't know how they did it either. It's amazing.
They would have had compasses and so on and so forth. They would have been walking this stuff, maybe riding across some of it, but when you're going through the forest, I don't know if course is going to help you that much. Absolutely stunning. When you map something, you're looking at little curves and rivers and stuff like that. And yeah, you're discovering relationships between things in a way they've never been seen before. Got someone in the family who took some indigenous studies courses, and she was enthusing about how I guess the erroneously named medicine wheels, and I don't really want to dwell on the names, but she's saying, wow, I don't think she understood. She was saying, it was a line to the sun. The one that I've seen in person near Carmangay here in Alberta, north of Lethbridge. Easy day trip. It was part of an archaeological tour. It was a whole day trip, and we had smashed in Buffalo Jump the same day. So I don't know if they called it a medicine wheel. I don't know the correct term, or the politically correct term. Anyway, there's something that has been described as a wheel, and it's quite large. An assortment of stones picked out and then laid down in something like a fairly circular pattern. And then there's kind of like an alleyway leading out from the medicine wheel, and it faces towards, I believe it is the rising of the sun at the winter solstice. Well, that's good. But it doesn't, she was saying, wow, like that's just awesome, the level of development, the sophistication. I'm sitting there saying, jeez, God, all it would take is a few observations over a few years and you'd know what that is. Whereas modern day science can understand, modern day science is not the West, as I've said before, it's the rest. The original astronomy, the so-called Western astronomy, the names of the constellations, so many Leo. What was that constellation, roughly, for the ancient Babylonians? The lion. So, it came from the Babylonians, it looks like, to the Greeks, and then it went through the Greeks and the Romans. Not so much the Romans, but there are some Roman names inside. What Leo is, I think, a Roman name for lion, and one of the stars in it is Regulus, which means something like little king. Huh? See, that's Latin. And if it were Greek, it would be maybe something like Basileus. But within that constellation, you've got Deneb Ola. Deneb means tail in a certain language. Ola means lion in a certain language. It's those two words are put into construct state, and you only find construct state, so far as I know, in Semitic languages. And I'm not talking about Hebrew in this case, I'm talking about Arabic. Deneb Ola. It's understood, it's something like an of in between those two words. That's called the construct state. Tail, lion. Tail of the lion. Arabic. So when I say Western culture is really rest-earned culture, or the culture of the rest, because it's been so appropriating or something like that. And not just taking stuff in and aping stuff, but mixing and matching. I mean it. I'm not just going around saying things. Hey, you gotta listen. You listen to my arguments.
Well, that's funny.
Don't
that
get
you
your
said
back up
appropriation.
about it.
Like one day, I was wearing some Indian clothing.
Okay, yeah.
And
I don't know if you want to go this route.
Okay.
But okay. But
I do, because I just watched the latest, and just like that, the Sex and the City remake, I guess, them in their 50s instead of their 30s, and Sarah Jessica Parker's character Carrie, is she's been invited to get together by an Indian friend, and her Indian friend has taken her in to look at traditional dresses in a shop. And Carrie was wondering if it would be appropriation if she wore a traditional dress, and her friend is like, no, not appropriation, appreciation, cultural appreciation, because you're coming to one of my culture's events with me, and so it makes sense that you would wear that, or whatever. And so I don't know about appropriation.
The
Maybe
person who
appreciation.
raised the issue, I just got to say, both of us, with Pauline, both of us have an immense amount of respect. So
Yes, I love her completely.
Yeah.
But I don't think that
respect,
she
too.
really meant anything by it.
No.
It was something that she had learned
Yeah.
from somebody else that she cared about. That she was learning some politically correct speak, right? And so I was wearing this outfit that had been given to me it was a hand-me-down from an Indian friend that I had, that I loved her clothing, and she loved that I loved her clothing, and she gave me some. And so
we were at a yard sale. Okay,
Yeah.
keep on going with your thought, and then I'll review what happened, because it was partly my doing too. But go on. It wasn't just you appreciating her clothing.
Well, it wasn't only that, because you appreciated her language, her
Exactly
books
right.
and stuff like that.
So
she gave some books to
She
James.
gave an awesome
And-
book, a Canada English
Yeah.
book, a dictionary, a pretty substantial one. It's not like some pocket book sort of thing. Gave it to me outright.
Yeah.
Because I actually had heard of the language, and I I knew some of the states back then.
But anyway, the person that I cared about, she had, like, other than the Indian woman who'd given me this beautiful clothing, but the person that I cared about that accused me of culture appropriation.
It wasn't so much accusing. I think she was more like asking, isn't it something like
Yeah.
that? It wasn't like an
No,
accusation.
she wasn't trying to be mean. It was just something that she had recently learned.
She was
from somebody
worried
else
about
she
it.
cared about.
Yeah.
And she really worries very much. She likes to do everything perfectly. She wants to do everything right, and so she doesn't want to offend anybody, and she doesn't want anything to be offensive in her presence. But it's anyway, she didn't mean anything by it, and I just thought, wow, this if you only knew. But
I
that's
don't
just
know
it.
if
A
you
lot
even
of the
mentioned
people,
the context.
yeah, a lot of people don't really care to know. They the people that are spreading those culture appropriation sort of politically correct terms, they're trying to keep culture separated. They're not trying to get people out there to befriend other people, and they don't want to let ideas grow and let cultures maybe merge in some ways so that ideas can grow.
What I call it is mixing and matching, as opposed to the melting pot
Yeah.
ideal that's held with many people in the United States up until recently. And mixing and matching is more like what Pauline says, taking ideas and
Yeah.
having them kind of like, it's more like hybridization.
Because you may not appreciate everything about another culture. You may think that some parts of their culture is just totally awful or whatever, but you can probably find something good about every culture out there. Focus on that. Try to make friends with that little bit, and go from there. And then things can grow. If people try to find the good things about other people's culture, and then they can grow a new culture from that is more inclusive rather than keeping people apart.
It's funny. So many people are so worried about appropriation. they're talking about inclusion, but they're really talking about exclusion. And
Yeah.
they really want cultures separated into little, what ultimately will be, or will remain, strictly speaking, hostile camps.
Yeah, and so we get into
What do they do with folks like me? Like
Yeah.
part Indigenous American. So I've been
well,
told.
and they don't like that.
Part
They don't like
part
the
African
mixing,
American.
really.
I
it comes
believe
down to
in
it.
mixing ethnicity and mixing and matching culture up in a different kind of way. Mixing ethnicity is it's fairly pro forma, or it should be. Mixing and matching culture, it's a tough sort of thing when you're looking at German culture, because German culture includes a large element of anti-Semitism, generally, over the, like a lot of people still have it, and it's been strong for quite a while. That stuff has to be strained out, and what that means is you strain almost all of, it'd probably be all of Nazi culture or subculture within the German culture. You want to cover these?
Well, I wanted to say that the rock out guitar in this, wow, holy, amazing.
Yep, back in the day,
And-
when he was at his peak, he had Alice Cooper had two of the best guitars going. Mick Ronson, I think it was a guy called Kirk Wagner or something like that.
Captain America Civil War. This one was put out a while ago, and I think I probably fell asleep. I fell asleep in these movies a lot. They're long, and they're for teenagers or whatever. I just, honestly, I kind of get bored and I fall asleep a lot. But I watched this again, and it's interesting to watch this after the whole freedom truckers and stuff like that. It's kind of funny. So, yeah, this Civil War. This is a war between like the Avenger kind of people. So, what is classic rock? I guess James will talk about that too, because I didn't watch that one at all.
Oh yeah, I can
I'll
remember
see
that.
how much
So,
time you have for
you got
that.
10 minutes maybe?
Oh, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, well, there
or
you
no,
go.
a minute and a half.
Well, I just want to finish up with the culture appropriation.
Oh, okay.
while we're
Then
on
we'll
it.
talk about classic rock.
Yeah, exactly. Some
Okay.
other time. So
Go ahead.
It's when we were going to a yard sale, a garage sale. Literally, I think it was when Pauline got these saris, I think they were, and I don't think they were on sale. There was some Indian stuff, right? The woman went back into her room.
Oh,
And
well, I
pulled
went
these
over
things
to her
specially
house
out.
later.
Okay, something
And-
like that.
Yeah, like
And she said, you can have these for free,
yeah.
right?
So
it was a gift, and it would be disrespecting her not to wear that clothing. It would be disrespecting the free gift of that language dictionary, not to learn that language. But she knew that I respected the culture. I think I might have been talking a little bit about Indian history, or history of the Indian subcontinent. So you're not disrespecting. There are some people that think you shouldn't learn indigenous language or something like that, and many indigenous people, I guess, believe that. Your language will die if you don't get some people on your side. Anyway, and that's coming from, I've been told, apparently it's, like if you're claiming indigenous background and you don't have it, that's a bad thing. So I've been told by my parents who did the research, particularly my mother, just after she turned 70. She's been retired for a while. And that's what I've been told.